Mayor Mike Duggan, you've had some big announcements lately. They seem to be coming one right after another. First, you've announced you're not going to run for re-election as Detroit mayor after 12 years when your term ends next year. Why did you decide to leave that job and make a run for governor?
Well, there were two different decisions. The first was that I really did what I came here to try to do, and the city was in bankruptcy, and I was born here, and I've watched things be taken away from us for 60 years, and I thought I could help turn it around. But we've gotten rid of nearly all of the abandoned houses down to our last 3,000, which we're working on. We're rebuilt the riverfront, we're building the Joe Louis Greenway, population is growing again, businesses are growing again, and so we certainly have our challenges, but I feel like what I wanted to do and the tone of attacking the problems by working together, I felt like it had taken root and it was going to be just fine.
So you're going to leave this job and try to move into the governor's office in Lansing. What's appealing about that job to you after all these years as mayor?
It's back to the same thing. I'm not somebody who wants to sit in an office and have a title, but you look at what's happening in Michigan, and we got to stop closing our eyes. I mean, the economy, this country is being built on the east and the west coast and somewhat in the south, and Michigan leads all of America, and young people under 30 leaving the state. And that's not just recent. That's been going on for a long time. Our children, 60% of them don't read at the fourth grade level. That's not new. That's been declining for 20 years. And for all of the every 2-year Republican-Democratic fights, nobody is talking about what we have to do to change the direction of the state. And I thought, maybe the kind of politics that we built in Detroit, of people working together, maybe the state could benefit from it as well.
So you've decided to run for governor, but not as a Democrat, the party that you've belonged to for most of your career. Why make the decision to run as an independent?
I really reached the conclusion that a partisan governor couldn't succeed. And this last year in Lansing was the worst that I've ever seen. But at this point, the partisan relationship in this country is toxic. But in this state, it's so closely divided in the House and Senate. Everything is about are the Democrats going to get control of the next cycle? Are the Republicans going to get control of the next cycle? Republicans spent a huge amount of money to get control of the House this last November, and the Democrats are going to pour a ton of money in to try to get it 2 years from now. And in the meantime, nobody is dealing with the long-term problems of the state. And I just realized that if I ran as a Democrat, all of the Republicans would line up against me, because you have to line up against a Democrat. Of course, in the Democratic Party, there is a left wing that has never supported me. So it isn't even like I'm going to have all the Democrats on my side. It just didn't seem like there's a path, I don't think, for any partisan governor to make the kind of transformational change Michigan needs. But I didn't see a way for me to do it.
Is there a path for you as an independent to win the governor's race? That's never happened in this state, at least in anybody's memory.
Yeah, well, a white guy hadn't run for mayor of Detroit in anybody's memory, and had never run as a write-in in history. So I don't worry too much about what's happened before, but I look at what is the path. And Gallup, since the 1980s, does a poll every year. Do you consider yourself a Democrat, or Republican, or independent? And this year, it is stunning. We're down to 27% think they're Democrats, 27% think they're Republicans, and those numbers are dropping. 43% consider themselves independent, and the number is growing. You just look at that, and any business person would say, do I want to be on the declining market share or the growing market share? But people in Michigan, and really in this country, just have always been fed only two choices, a Democrat or a Republican. And they assume those are the only two choices that are there. When I see, and as we were talking, I just came back from New York, I just came through the airport. All through the airport, were stopping me. I'm with you. I'm voting for you. An independent. I'm an independent too. There is something about this that is already capturing the imagination of folks. And I do think I'd rather be on the side of the 43% that are independent than at 27% that are Republican or Democrat.
But the mechanics are challenging. I mean, you'll be running without a party structure, without all of the things a political party normally does for its candidate. How do you replace that as an independent? And how do you build an organization?
The party structure is more myth than reality. But think about this. When you run as mayor, you're nonpartisan. There's no party structure. I built it myself. When you run in a primary, there's no party structure. The party doesn't kick in until after the primary elections. You build that yourself. But the infrastructure is people. And if the people of this state say, I'm fed up with the two parties and where they're going, I'll put together an organization, much like I did when I ran for mayor, that will be an active group that believes in change. And if that happens, it'll be okay. But for 13,000 signatures, I'm on the November ballot. The Democrats and Republicans, I'm sure, are going to go through a nasty primary where they all attack each other. And two of them will come out, and we're going to have a debate. And I feel like this is a conversation the state needs to have, and my guess is, from what I'm starting to hear, some other states in the country may start to see.
So you've been a centrist in a party that has moved steadily to the left.
Right.
As a business-oriented politician and candidate, could you have won the Democratic Party primary?
I don't consider myself a business-oriented politician, but I'm in the city of Detroit that is 94% Democratic. And so people in the city realize that if we're going to have good jobs for our residents, we've got to have businesses who want to invest here. It's got to be a good climate. And I say to the businesses, I'm going to help you land here, but you've got to give Detroiters preference in getting in and support training and career path. That's been a bargain that we have made that has dropped us to the lowest unemployment rate in 30 years. But I don't consider that centrist. I consider that results-oriented, and I think the great majority of Detroiters think so too.
So you've got 2 years to convince Michigan that you're the guy who can fix this thing. What is your message? What is your plan over these next 2 years as a candidate for governor?
So when I started running for mayor, I didn't start out going into people's living rooms saying, I have all the answers, I'm here to help you. I went into living rooms and I sat and I listened carefully to their people's hopes and dreams and the obstacles they were running up against. And a lot of what's developed in the city, the Department of Neighborhoods, Motor City Match, many of the strategies came out of those conversations. And I am going to start now going to every corner of this state. I'm not going to go up and sit with farmers and tell them I have the answers, but I am going to sit there until I know the answers. I'm going to sit with school teachers and say, how is it that 42 states have figured out how to teach third graders to read better than us? I don't know what the answer is, but I know those teachers know the answer. And I'll be in a position where I'm going to listen, I'm going to learn, and I'll present a plan that the public can judge for themselves whether it makes sense.
Have you thought out the formula, how many Republicans you're going to have to win over, how many Democrats you're going to have to keep?
You know, my goal is 20% from each side and win with 40% of the vote.
Okay. So you've got still a year left as mayor, so you're not going to be spending all your time on the campaign trail.
Right.
What's left to do here over the next years? What are your priorities?
Yeah, so we're on a 10 straight balanced budget. The finances are in good shape. I'm really glad that Ralph Wilson Park's going to be built out. It'll be a big part of completing the riverfront. We're building out the Joe Louis Greenway. We're continuing to build 3 new rec centers in the city. We're down to now 3,000 abandoned houses. I'd like it to get as close to 0 by the time I leave as I can. So right now it is basically a strategy of executing competently the plans we've laid forward the last 11 years.
So we've already seen people starting to jump in the mayor's race. How confident are you that when you leave, you'll be leaving it in the hands of competent leadership who can keep this momentum going?
I think there is a lot of talent. The biggest question, and I've said this for 11 years, Detroit was going down the tubes because the bickering and the us versus them politics as the problems sunk into the city. But I just watched Mary Sheffield's kickoff, which was, I'm going to continue the progress and we're going to work together. I'm going to predict, she had a very successful kickoff. She set the bar high. I'm going to predict you're going to see a number of other candidates also come out with a strong message of unity and continuing progress. And if that happens, this city is going to be on a good path for a long time to come.
And is that your legacy?
I really do. I think I've changed politics in this city.
Mayor Mike Duggan, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Nolan.
Thank you.
Watch One Detroit, Thursday at 7:30 p.m.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.